Welcome to my video at the occasion of Remembrance Day. Now, it turned just so out to have become a video about mandates, and I have to conclude that in North America we have a lot of mandates where they don't have any application nor business, and also where they are illegal, whereas where we should have them, and we still have a few remnants of them, nobody's paying any attention to them. Check this out.
The thing is, from what I know, see, he grew up in that era when you could say all of that stuff, and it wasn't really, it was just the terminology they used then, which was rough, and it was the same way they said things about women, and then as it went on, they could have, and
You think it's a generational thing?
yeah, and they could have worked that all out by just getting them, and saying, okay, Don, you got to tune this down. Because everybody I know that's ever known said he was a really good guy.
He was about the only real entertaining aspect that there was in those hockey nights for me. Excuse me? Like, that, I kind of welcome the opportunity to comment on all that, because I always felt like it went down really wrong. He should have never gotten fired that way. He should have gotten fired for commentary like that, but he should have gotten some training way ahead of that, stating clearly, this is the position of the radio station. If you can't comply with that, you can't be on our airtime.
Yeah.
Then it's clear, And he just mouthed off so bad. I'm sure half of the words he said, he didn't even want to say them.
It's the terminology.
And I understand why he is outraged on an occasion, an opportunity like Remembrance Day, where I want to say, I live my life in a way to remember, and I remember the sacrifice, and I'm never going to forget it. And you can check that out with real live tags, real people tags at Abroadcom.net if you want to find out more about who I am. So I've been there since 2009. Back to Remembrance Day, back to Don Cherry. As a professional in the media, I really want to criticize, and I've always wanted to do that. So it's a great thing that we have opportunity to get into that right now. That you can't just let people in front of the camera without supporting them a little bit. And I don't think that he had that support. And I don't think that anybody got that support. It's just, if a certain code is not understood for whatever good reason that code is there, people are not taught about it, people are not trained into it, people are just being run into these open knives, as we say in German, and then they are like, oh well, next, you're fired. You made the mess, and now we're going to use you as a scapegoat. So everybody sees that we are in favor of the code. So the crowd is happy with us. And we've been liking Don Cherry as long as he made us the numbers and the ratings. And now that he ran into that open knife, he's still good for us, because now we are trampling on him and bashing him and firing him and reprimanding him. So we look better to the public while we're doing that. I mean, that's just despicable. That is just despicable. And it's also not the first time that I observe Canadian institutions acting that way. You won't ever have a society with a backbone and some integrity that way. What you're generating is a generation of no spiners, bow downers. That's what we have created here. People who are frantic about whether or not they are with the right group, because that loyalty is rewarded in Canada. But if you have integrity, if you blow the whistle on some stuff that is not quite kosher and should have never happened in the first place, then they fire you. Then you're the person who's making the nest dirty. That is really not a way a public broadcaster should act with its employees. That's wrong. And it's also, it seems manufactured. It seems a desired outcome in a bigger scheme to corrupt the ability to produce a reasonable public broadcast at all. The other thing that has to be said once and for all, because I don't think anybody has gotten that across yet, the reason why such behavior on the air of a public broadcaster is intolerable, of course, whether or not you want to call these comments racist, we can set that aside completely. We don't have to busy this discussion with something that is much more, it's important to look at, but it really distracts from the issue with regards to the responsibility of the broadcaster to assure that everybody and anybody appearing on the air is not in a conflict of interest, unless it's advertisement and described as such. That is an obligation for public media and for-profit media as well. Has to do with the assumptions that one makes looking to somebody's mandated or for-profit commercial air time. Now, when Don Cherry said, you people come here and enjoy our lifestyle, the least you could do is buy a poppy and express your respect visibly. There's a ton of things wrong with that statement, content-wise, but the most striking thing I think that needs to be said from a media perspective is the fact that a flagship moderator of a primetime sports show, the national sports show, really, you got to remain within your mandate. If your mandate is to report on sports, then you cannot advocate your viewers, your audience, adopt one or the other behavior. You're totally overstepping your place. It's not your place as a sportscaster, an MC for the national hockey show in Canada. So now that we got that out of the way, I strongly agree with Jim Kerr from the church bubbles that nobody should feel the need to adhere to any particular ideology. I remember a conversation with a Canadian customs officer entering Canada after a stay in the United States where my car broke down and I overstayed my visa with regards to my visa waiver, because I'm a German national and therefore have a visa waiver. That is a privilege that Germany enjoys with the United States. So I'm rolling out of the United States. So that's normal procedure, I should add, for people who don't land cross the border. The border between Canada and the United States. You leave Canada to enter the United States only to be stopped by the United States Customs because you want to enter the corporation. I was on my way back, stopped by the Canadians verifying my status, which at the checkpoints takes about 5 minutes if the line is down. Should be faster, really. And on a side note, the Canadian government now illegally prioritizes inoculated travel document applicants. I just recently found that out, putting my own German passport application together. Now the Germans ended up sending me my passport without ever documenting my Canadian status, which is kind of really cool. It seems like a really bureaucratic thing. And then also to prioritize people who have been inoculated with these toxic injections is completely illegal. There is no lawful basis of such operation. And once I pointed that out, the Germans sent me my passport with no commentary. Again, that's just a side battlefield, and there should be much more coming onto this border issue, or the issue of travel and free travel for that matter at all. It's such a big thing that we've never discussed with the words that we really should put to it. It's coming up. I started already a series about the illegal proceedings that are now moving to becoming the norm along the Canadian and United States border, which is a long border. This Canadian customs officer, when I arrived at the border, had the nerve to ask me, why is your visa overstayed? However, referring to my American visa waiver, I had ample travel documentation on me. For example, my permanent resident card. Even so, it was expired, as I said. Those databases are readily available to customs services, and the query takes a few minutes. So after I told him where I lived and answered all his regular questions, which I'm used to, he should have not proceeded to say, why is your US American visa waiver expired? Because that's really none of his business. He's getting paid by the Canadian taxpayer to understand whether or not I, entering Canada, represent a danger for everybody who's already there. What my status is in Canada is not even that important. Even so, I have perfectly legitimate status in Canada. Till this day, nobody has explained this to me. Now, when people start doing things while not having a mandate to do them on the job, that's called intimidation. They have no reason to do that. They have no reason to ask me that. It's not their mandate. You have all these technical details. You have all these databases. You can process these inquiries within seconds of initiating them. And we treat people as if they had no business being there, as if it wasn't their border, as if it wasn't their land, as if it was something to feel guilty about, to travel at all and cross the land border. That is making a trampling out of that sacrifice. And it has been doing that since a long time. It's slowly and incrementally getting worse. And nobody says anything, and nobody explains why it's wrong. But when you are in a position of authority, you cannot abuse of that power just because you can. Because you're getting away with that. On the same occasion or on a different occasion, I remember another Canadian officer ask me, why are you not a citizen yet? And other comments and questions that really border intimidation and coercion. And I think that is just the lowest thing for any federal employee or state employee or any employee of the administration to be doing after your ancestors fought so hard so that other peoples, like for example, people like myself who grew up in West Germany, could be free from the oppression at the hands of their own government that was enabled by the Großkapital, as we call it. That is a super fat supply allegiance that stands behind those oppressive dictatorship governments. And it is the same constellation today. The media is helping those lies the best they can with censorship and also a really small-minded exploitation of the possibilities that artificial intelligence actually should provide us with. However, we're using it in a dilettante fashion, in a way abusing it really in order to reproduce the old paradigms such as control and punishment, which only induce more trauma and will never generate a loving society able and enabled to enjoy the wealth that comes with this promise. And that exactly is the promise of North America, that you don't have to be coerced into any kind of ideology, into any kind of allegiance. You don't have to be Canadian or US American or indigenous or immigrant. You can just be human. You can just be hungry. You can just be tired. You can just be thirsty. You might just need clean water. So once you understand that you don't need to believe anything, no matter who said that, but you should ask around as many people as you can, then go in the literature, then turn to the experts. I know not everybody has the kind of time, but this is how you form a opinion with a foundation. And if that's what our broadcasters are supposed to do, and our national sports shows on primetime TV have a mandate to educate and elevate the population and give an example on what to aspire to, then it's not difficult to understand why these comments by Don Cherry are wrong. And I think the most part of Canada understands that, and the most part of the Northern Turtle Island even understands that. Sport is not a matter of boxes. Sport is a matter of hard work, talent, and athleticism, I think. Now, that is a beautiful thing, and this is why we had it interrupted so much. And we still have it interrupted so much. When these could all be areas where we can get together and exchange our ideas in a civilized fashion. Had Don Cherry expressed these kinds of views on his personal profiles, social media, had he entertained his own YouTube channel to express such a statement or opinion, I would have had a lot less of a problem with that. Even so, I still think those comments are inappropriate and inherently misguided, because there is very little information about the actual impact of immigrants and a lot of polemic and hate targeting, really, scapegoating. A reputable broadcaster cannot engage in such a thing, especially not understanding the true role that immigration plays in North America. One more thing I think is important. People who value the sacrifice stand up against coercion and for choice, freedom of choice. if there is risk, there has to be choice of the individual. And no one has to adhere to any certain ideology. That is the promise of North America, the land of individualism. Thanks to the veterans who died, fought, killed, and died for our freedom. Happy Remembrance Day, and thank you so much for your service. Again, I'm making this video because I welcome the opportunity to comment finally on the firing of Don Cherry, which was very wrong. Not the actual firing. The comments were impossible to be made on the air, as I explained, hopefully. If you have any questions, just let me know in the comments what else I should be talking to, or what else should we be addressing here. How do we want our broadcasters to act? Let me know in the comments, and thank you very much for tuning into my channel here at abroadcom.net, where we struggle for words, and I'm so happy you were struggling with us. Happy Remembrance Day.